Welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Talk here at Great Stories. We've got Phil standing in for Ken Lee.
Hello.
Who was too busy this month for us. He's got chock full of junk schedule. He wouldn't tell us what it was, but actually, it is Mother's Day, so maybe his family's more important to him than ours is to ours.
Typical.
Oh, so terrible. Anyway.
My mom told me to leave her alone.
So it's a normal day for you.
And I can say that because she told me today that she doesn't watch these videos because they're boring. Thanks, Mom. And happy Mother's Day.
Even my wife watches these videos.
My mom is very difficult to entertain.
Okay.
Well, except for if we had Jason Momoa, she'd be watching it in a heartbeat. That's what I should do. I should tell her that we had a guest star, Jason Momoa. She would know that I'm lying, but she would still watch anyways, just in case.
Just in case.
I'll put a tiny Momoa in post.
Just a little Momoa.
Awesome.
Tiny Jason.
So yes, here we are, another edition, and this is gonna be a very Marvel-dominated talk here. I'm not even sure if we're gonna have time for anything else because what is the biggest news in the cinematic world? But
the most important event of my entire life.
Well, wow. Our end game here is...
Yeah. Well, there we go. He drops the nugget. 22 films worth of history here leading up to Avengers Endgame. And, 2/3 of the team has seen it. Not saying who hasn't. Actually, someone here has actually seen it enough times to account for the person that did not see it.
Yes, that's true.
So
you saw it once. Right?
I saw it twice.
Oh, you saw it twice.
I saw it twice, but I still did not see it as many times as someone else.
I would have seen it 4 times, honestly, by now. But I could only do 3.
3 times was enough for you?
My girlfriend
rule
said
of
I
3?
wasn't allowed to watch it that much because I'm wasting time and money.
Time and money.
But it's worth it.
Time and money, yep. So
deeply impactful every time.
So let's chat a little bit about this movie and what our expectations were.
Let's tell Philium over here all about...
I mean, don't forget about me. I'm here too.
Yes.
Of course.
Our lovely editor lady today, producer lady.
Who was invited to be on camera for this discussion.
Yeah, she was supposed to be out here, but camera steers.
I can be safe back here and just talk here too. So.
What, we don't make you feel safe out here? That's the problem?
The audience wants to see your face.
Yeah.
They'll see me soon.
They will?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe for next month we can have a 5-person panel and we talk about...
Hallie's going to be an Easter egg in one of our videos.
Maybe I'll put a Hallie in post.
Hallie and Jason.
Hallie and Jason Momoa just kind of walking around.
Let's do a sing-along at some point, and we'll use a Hallie head to do the words to follow.
Impromptu musical number. That'll be our 100th episode.
That has happened before. We did sing Backstreet Boys on one episode.
Yes.
It's true, we did.
Well, we lip-synced.
Well,
it wasn't really lip-syncing, because you were not like we were singing to music. You were kind of singing it, and then you just...
I was kind of singing it. Yeah, that's true. I was in my head anyway.
Guys, we have derailed so hard already.
Endgame. Endgame.
Yeah, we're talking about Endgame.
All right.
Let's bring it back together.
Yeah, bringing it back, reeling it in. All right. So we just witnessed actually cinematic history.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just lighting up the charts like.
Yeah, it's already broken like the record for box office.
Yep.
Yeah,
box office records are being blown away.
Yeah.
Recently, James Cameron posted a picture, a meme, of the Avenger symbol basically sinking the Titanic, which I thought was kind of clever.
Feels so good.
And basically,
what rank it is at right now.
It's all right. So while she looks up the numbers, it's definitely made a boatload of cash, and it's probably going to overtake. If it hasn't already, it's probably going to overtake the Star Wars movie. That is.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
That being said, I don't think Disney will complain about one of their movies overtaking another one of their movies as top.
But there's a good reason
top ticket
why.
Holder, ticket
It's at
sellers.
the number 3 spot right now.
Number 3 all time.
700,000. No, 700 million. Excuse me.
Yep.
I was gonna say 700,000. That's
This is
The
domestic.
second spot is Avatar, and in the first spot is Force Awakens.
And is this domestic or international?
International.
International. Okay. Well,
United States, actually.
well, I hope it
That's
overtakes
awesome.
Avatar because that's an overrated turd in my mind.
I leave right now. I'm about to derail this and explain to you why Avatar was genius.
Oh,
Tyler,
Okay.
Tyler,
Here we
Tyler,
go.
there's not enough time.
Effects.
We need to talk about Endgame. Spoilers.
I want to talk about Endgame,
I wanna
but shots
break
have
it-
been fired and I am wounded.
Tyler,
wanna
you can
break
talk
into-
about this later in the week.
Aqua.
Now is
There's
not
an
the
Aqua
time.
song right now that we could sing, the blue song.
Let's talk about Endgame, guys.
Yeah. Let's
Talk about Endgame.
Let's talk about Brie Larson for a minute.
Oh,
You're just
no.
trying to get me going.
He just,
Guys,
he just
this-
opened a whole
Triggered.
can of beans.
Triggered.
This is the B
Triggered.
footage,
I'm about to
guys.
snap my fingers. Go Thanos on this production.
Okay. So,
I'll beat
all
you
right,
to it.
now that you're all fired up, Tyler, why don't you share with us what you
I don't
thought
know.
of
I can't
Endgame?
even think straight right now.
All right.
You got me all flustered. It was
Yes.
absolutely brilliant. I personally give it a 10 out of 10. I've seen it 3 times now, and every single time I watch it, I still have the same reaction to every single scene as I did the first time I saw it. It right out of the gate hits you with just a range of emotions.
Yes.
It starts off very slow, showing you how different characters that we have yet to see react to what happened with the Thanos.
Yes. Yes.
We get an opening
Yep.
that was so smooth, by the way. I didn't actually realize the movie had started when it did, because
That's
it just
true.
kind of
no credits. It just kind of just popped on.
pops right into.
Yeah.
We have an image of Hawkeye
Yep.
with his daughter,
Yep.
and he is instructing her on how to shoot more accurately.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst in the background, his wife and 2 children are 2 other children are getting a little picnic prepared.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of back and forth banter, a couple little funny moments within the first minute and a half.
Yep.
And then,
Like who puts mayo on a hot dog?
Monsters, that's who.
I'd rather have some ketchup.
it's good stuff there. Well,
Yes.
you get this kind of lightheartedness that you're
Yep.
there with Barton and his family,
He's
and
happy.
then
Yep.
you get a sort of like cutaway from the rest of the family as the camera kind of is focused on Clint and kind of facing towards the house, and he turns to go gather his daughter to bring her to the dinner table, and he's looking around and he can't see her, but what we can see is a little poof of dust
Yep.
breaking up in the wind. So we immediately know what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
He turns around and we see that same dust kind of fluttering away down by the picnic table.
Yep.
And he starts frantically looking for his wife, calling
He's
to his
just calling
wife,
out her
calling to
name,
his kids.
desperation.
And
Yep.
then it cuts to black and it's just like,
Yep.
wow.
Yep.
So right out of the gate, right in the gut.
And
Yep.
it really hits you hard, just flat out
Yep.
first.
It does. It does.
So
Very weighty, emotional moment.
oh my gosh, you know what I totally realized? You're gonna have to put like just huge flashing spoilers.
Oh,
like,
dude,
right across
that's-
the front of the scene because we didn't warn people. Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah,
break
we
it
need to
down
warn.
for you. We're gonna tell you everything. We're gonna
For all
spoil everything.
3 people out there who haven't seen the movie yet, we're really sorry.
Oh, actually, all 2, because the other one is right here.
Yeah. So yeah, spoiler alert. I don't know if you figured that out yet.
It'll probably be in the title of the video. I mean,
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
put it in the
yeah.
video. We'll put it everywhere.
in the description,
I'll put it
flashing
in
all
the-
over the
Cut
screen.
this whole segment out, and then just put it at the very beginning.
Yes.
A weird cutaway.
Yeah,
So-
be in the thumbnail, so be a flash warning.
Yeah.
Maybe the spoiler warning will be the B footage. I don't know. We'll see.
So where does it go from there? After
Oh,
So
I don't know. I just like did
So-
it out of habit. It was
So
kinda-
I usually know what I'm doing.
Yes.
we jump to what remained the group that was fighting Thanos
Yep.
out in space towards the end of Infinity War.
Yep.
All that's left is Tony and Nebula. They have taken the Milano and
Mhm.
are attempting to fly back to Earth, but they pretty much drained the power cells,
Mhm.
and now they're floating in the deep of space.
Mhm.
According to Tony's logs, it's been 23 days since they've been dead in the water.
Yep.
and they are beginning to run low on oxygen. They have no food left. They've done everything they can to try to get it kicked back on.
Yep.
And he reveals a lot of this information in a recorded message for Pepper that
Yes.
he's not even sure if she'll ever get it.
And it's another gut punch moment
Yeah,
because
it
I mean
really
it's
is.
really like he's almost like saying goodbye.
Yeah.
He's saying goodbye. You know, it's going to be the end.
You get a nice little moment
And-
there where like he's playing like the paper football game with Nebula and like teaching her how to have fun.
Yeah.
Which is just Karen Gillan does just an awesome job portraying like the
Yes.
most stoic and just like stone-faced character trying to understand what fun is.
Yes.
It's just she does an excellent job.
And she
about
says
fun.
she's
It's
having
about
fun,
fun.
but her face is not reading
Yes.
fun.
That
It's
was
very
fun.
intense. But yeah,
Can she even
Um,
emote?
A little bit, yeah.
a little bit.
So
But you see her like she's. There's a couple moments there where you really see, for the first time, that softer side of Nebula. At least for me,
that
it's
humanity that
yeah,
is still there.
like when Tony Stark has basically passed out unconscious on the floor, to go to sleep, and it's going to be his final sleep because the oxygen's going to run out, and she puts him basically into the captain's seat of the ship, and she kind of just does that, like she's touching him like this or whatever, and
Yeah,
it's almost
eye
like
contact.
that kind of like there's a respect there, and
It
and
almost humanizes her
it,
a
it,
little bit.
it did humanize her quite a bit, just that little subtle thing that she did, and so that was a really nice touch. And then of course we don't have to recap scene by scene everything, but you get that moment where all of a sudden you're elated because Tyler's not gonna be happy about this, but who comes to save Tony and Nebula's day?
Totally out of left field, completely unexpected. We can't even begin to imagine how she could have possibly found them, but Captain Marvel shows up and saves them.
Presumably they've sent out signals.
Maybe.
Stark
possibly.
technology sending signals
we could
through
come
space.
up with reasons.
Who knows?
We will make excuses for other things happening in the story that aren't explained, so we can, of course, make excuses
I'm
for
sure
her.
Doctor Strange could explain it to us.
Yeah, I'm sure he could. I'm sure he could.
I mean, he did see all the scenarios, right?
Yeah. All
So-
14 million of them.
Yep. So, at any rate,
So yes, Captain Marvel manages to find Tony and Nebula, and she brings the ship back to
Avengers headquarters.
Yep, where we have all that's left remaining at this point is Black Widow, Captain America, and we had Rocket was amongst them
Yep.
still.
Yep. Rocket's
And
there.
who
and,
else?
And we have
Thor.
Yes, and Thor.
Don't you also have Banner?
Oh yeah, so
Banner- and
yeah,
Banner was
still
there,
there,
just
and
as Banner.
Yep, as Banner.
As Banner.
And
Yep.
so they essentially, through the intel that they share, are able to pinpoint exactly where Thanos is,
Yep.
and they decide, all right, we're gonna go out and we're gonna basically put an end to this. We're gonna take the stones back from him, and we're gonna snap our own fingers, and we're gonna bring everybody back.
Yep.
And they fly out to this planet where they've discovered that Thanos is, and
And by they, it's the entire team.
it's the entire team, including
Yes.
Captain Marvel.
Yep.
They fly out there. You get this nice little scene where you get to see Thanos kind of walking through his garden,
He just
picking
looks so
fruit.
peaceful.
And he's, living just like the most simple life.
Yep.
You could tell there's a sense of, like, humbleness to him.
Think so? Okay.
I think so. I honestly do. I think
Well, his mission was complete.
his mission was
He
complete.
doesn't have any more
he,
purpose.
what he truly believed was a noble cause,
Yeah.
despite what it meant to have to do it.
Yep.
And you get that from the short bit of dialogue after what's left of the Avengers essentially ambush him.
Yes.
You have Captain Marvel comes blasting through his roof, manages to hold him down, trying to pin his hand down so he can't snap his fingers. And then as she's holding around the neck. You have Banner coming up through the ground in the Hulkbuster armor, grabbing his arm.
Yep.
And out of nowhere, Thor drops in and just slices the arm right off with Stormbreaker. And you get this dialogue between them where they essentially discover that the stones are missing. Mm-hmm. And Thanos reveals that he had used the stones to destroy the stones.
Which is how they found him in the first place, because that energy
surge is basically acted like a
from
beacon.
the stones being destroyed was what gave away his position.
And so there's a little bit of dialogue. Mm-hmm. He kind of has this moment with Nebula where he basically, in his own way, kind of apologizes to her the way that he had treated her, only to immediately have his head taken off by a very remorseful... You haven't seen it yet. Oh, over there making crazy motions at me.
No, Thanos is a psycho. Like, even in his own mind of like, oh, this is a noble cause. No. Mass genocide is not a noble cause. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's not really genocide if you're just...
Sure, Hitler thought he was noble, too.
The point is, the point being...
yes.
Completely derailed me.
Moment with Nebula.
Thor takes Thanos' advice from Infinity War,
yes.
and he goes for the head.
And
he takes
just
Thanos'
a
head right off.
The last words is like, you should have gone for the head, and he literally goes for the head in the next movie.
Yeah,
that's right.
But you can tell that this is not satisfying for Thor at all, because the fact of the matter is that he has already failed.
Thanos has won.
Yeah.
That's it.
So they've got nothing left. They return to Earth, and 5 years later, people are just trying to get their lives back together.
And there's that also, prior to them leaving, it was when, Tony and Cap see each other for the first time. Now, Tony's a mess at this point. Yeah. He's not doing well, but he basically is saying to Cap, like, you and I, like we're done basically as friends. Like you weren't there for us. You didn't like the ideas that I had that would have kept us safe. Sacrifice some freedoms in order to be safe, that kind of thing. And it was kind of like a little bit of a political argument there, but it really their relationship has been strained completely ever since the Civil War, Captain America Civil War movie, and so it hasn't really gotten any better at this point.
No.
So, and that's one of the major subplots that I really enjoyed was that whole relationship, right? So,
for the sake of time, kind of skipping forward, break down the plot a little bit more. 5 years later, Scott Lang returns from the quantum verse.
Yes.
Quite by accident.
I absolutely loved that point in the film where it was 5 years later and Scott Lang comes back and he sees his daughter. That was a wonderful point because I actually started crying at that point. I know it's a little early in the film, but I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
you get to see her grow up.
It was a very emotional moment. I agree.
Yeah.
He comes home or he comes back, through some blind stroke of luck of a rat, basically releasing him from the quantum realm.
Stepping on just the right button.
Or was it really just a rat? Or someone actually theorized that I was talking to, was this some like a higher power basically that put that rat there to do that exact thing in order to save the world? Who knows? Maybe that'll be covered later.
Was that one of the 14 million paths?
Probably.
Yeah, maybe. And
clearly it was, because it was the path that succeeded.
So, Scott is completely oblivious to everything, and he's walking. Basically, he's got to walk home because the truck, the van that he was in that was basically the quantum realm truck. It was it's stored away in this warehouse basically.
Yep.
And he's walking home with a little wagon. I think it was I don't know what it was.
Some of his stuff.
Radio flyer wagon thing, with all his stuff in it, and he's just like, what happened here?
Yeah.
Everything's gone, and he's completely, he doesn't know. he asks some kid in the street, and the kid just turns and looks at him like
yeah,
I got nothing for you, and he just keeps on going.
What a jerk!
And he wanders upon this, and he wanders upon this memorial in the park, and he sees his name up on a memorial of the lost people, the people that
vanished
with the snap.
Titling on the stones.
Yeah, and but fortunately his daughter's name's not there, and that gives him hope, and that leads up to the moment that Hallie just mentioned, which was definitely a tearjerker moment.
We find out Captain America is basically running support groups to help people try to rediscover their purpose in a world where half of their loved ones are now just gone.
Dealing with survivor's guilt and things like that.
Can we just talk about who was in that circle, though?
Who was in that circle, Hallie?
Some of the producers of the movie.
Really?
Oh, didn't know that, actually. That's a fun fact.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, some of the, I think the first person that they show is, in that circle is the director.
The Russos?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I've never actually seen their faces.
I wouldn't have recognized that. That's a little Easter egg there.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
That's a nice fun fact.
Little behind the scenes magic for you folks.
So that's what Cap's doing.
Yep.
Black Widow has continued the Avengers Initiative, but it's basically come down to just monitoring illegal activity, monitoring. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Monitoring.
Here for you.
Natural phenomena like earthquakes and such.
Yep.
And they have various people over the world that are basically monitoring these things.
Someone from, can't remember the character's name, from Wakanda.
Yep, the general.
The general there, the forces. You've got Captain Marvel, you got Rocket.
Yep, and you've got Rhodey, War Machine.
Yep.
And so she's basically trying to hold up that the Avengers Initiative in that way, and then there's this fantastic moment where Cap visits her.
Yep.
And he's talking about whether or not it's necessary for her to keep going, and she gives this little speech about why she, as Black Widow, why the Avengers Initiative is so important to her, the life that it gave her, the purpose that it gave her, the family that it gave her.
Yep.
And I kind of get the impression that it was also a little bit of Scarlet actually talking about the ride that has been the MCU up to this point. The family of characters, of cast members that she's worked with. Like, as she was talking, I could see some real emotion in her eyes. She's a fantastic actress, but there's genuine emotion is really hard to portray perfectly.
She
and I really feel like maybe there was a little bit of real Scarlet in there talking about, through that dialogue. I would be interested to find out if that was all her, if that was written for her, what that was, because I do kind of feel like...
I think it was written for her, but some of it was ad-libbed from her.
So, Scarlet, let us know.
Choke up.
Reach out to us, Scarlet.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yes.
give me
comments in the video.
Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you can find us.
We could use a celebrity spot in the comments section.
Aside from Jason Momoa, we already have that covered.
Yeah, we got Momoa.
Yes.
Let's get an MCU in here. Let's get a ScarJo and.
But yeah, so that was a really touching moment.
Yep.
But they get interrupted by a video kind of the front gate.
Yep, the security camera.
Video. Thank you, security camera. Can't talk today. And it's Scott. And he is kind of flustered. They bring him in, and he's kind of like sitting there, kind of going through his brain, and they're like, "What's going on with this guy?" And he basically stops and says, "What do you know about the quantum realm?"
Yes.
And he starts talking about how, for him, he was only in the quantum realm for 5 hours, and now 5 years has passed.
Yep.
And he realizes that time works differently in the quantum realm. And perhaps if they had a way to navigate it, they might be able to jump from one point in time to another and attempt to change things. And this, of course, sets out the series of events that leads them to building a quantum time machine.
Yep.
And there's a whole lot of information in there, and I don't want to get into it, otherwise this video will be as long as the movie.
But this is the thing that brings back Tony and Cap together, right? So they reach out to Tony Stark, being one of the great, ingenious technological minds, futurist, and they try to bring him into this plan to basically build a time machine.
But he's reluctant.
He's reluctant, and what we've discovered is that Tony has moved on with his life. He's married Pepper Potts, and they've had a child together. And so him going back and doing something like this, even trying this, is risking everything that he's gained in the aftermath of the snap. And, and there's a lot of responsibility there because it's not just about what he wants. It's about what his family wants, too. And so he's not really buying into this right away. And
but of course,
eventually,
the inquisitive guy that he is decides, all right, well, let's for fun's sake, let's just see if I can figure out this issue with time travel that is definitely impossible. And of course, he figures it out.
He figures it out.
Of course.
Much to his complete surprise. There's even a fun little moment in there where he accidentally teaches his daughter a word she should not be using. Absolutely just great, endearing moment. Like getting to see him with this young actress.
That's mommy's word.
Yeah.
That's
just.
Yeah.
It's absolutely awesome the way that he interacts with his character daughter.
Well, Robert Downey Jr. is without a doubt one of America's gems in terms of acting. Sure. I absolutely love him.
Definitely.
He's got a charisma to him that cannot be denied.
Right.
And yes, his little dry delivery of funny lines. The Build-A-Bear moment was hilarious with Rocket. But he just has this gift, and anyway, that's probably going to make me a little bit more. Well, I'm not going to say, but
so
bottom line is, yes, he has to have the conversation with his wife once he finds out that he can do that. They can,
and she basically convinces him that if he doesn't do this, he's not going to be able to rest. He's not going to be able. He can't stop himself because this is who he is. Right. He's somebody that needs to help other people, and she recognizes that, and she basically compels him to continue on with his research. And so prior to him returning to the Avengers with his navigational device for going through quantum space and time, they decide that they need to find somebody else who might not be as brilliant as the great Tony Stark, but still have a pretty big brain.
Yes.
In the form of
a little plot twist here, right?
Dr. Hulk.
The
amalgamation of Bruce Banner and the Hulk as one perfectly unified entity.
Yes. Wait, they actually brought Dr. Hulk in?
Yes, and it is fantastic.
Awesome.
Finally.
I'm not going to spoil a single thing of it. I don't want to say any. No, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't say. It is awesome. It is too great. Every moment.
It's too good.
Tacos.
The taco moment.
The taco moment.
Avenge the taco. Please.
Later on, his smash moment was great too.
Oh.
Yeah. Because
it's a bit gratuitous, but whatever.
Yeah, like the. Yeah.
So you gotta. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so. Try as he may, he cannot figure out how to move through time. No. There's a funny moment where they're trying to push Scott back through the quantum verse, and instead of moving Scott through time, they move time through Scott. But of course,
it makes for a series of funny moments.
Tony shows up in the nick of time to basically say, "Oh, I already know you guys messed this up, so I'm gonna show you how to do it right." And they succeed in creating a way to move through time.
Yes.
And now that this is done, they have to come up with a way to get all the stones. But before that happens, they need to finish gathering their team.
That's right.
Which means getting another very important godlike character back amongst their ranks.
Yeah.
The God of Hammers?
The God of Hammers, and and sparkly things.
And another character
Oh, yes,
who
of
seems
course.
to have gone off the rails and gone Frank Castle style on
Yes.
organized criminals.
So we have our lovable Ronan, not
Yes.
the accuser, but Clint has gone completely rogue,
Yep.
taken on the name of Ronan, and has started essentially taking out any organized crime that survived the snap.
Yes.
Because his thought is, if innocent people have to suffer and die, and others have to suffer by having lost, then why should these people that make a living off of the suffering of others be allowed to live?
That's
and
right.
so he has spent the past 5 years just slaying organized crime syndicates
Yep.
all over the world.
That's right.
Does he still use the bow, or is he using a sword now?
Sword. He
Sword,
goes sword.
okay.
Yep.
So-
Sword and throwing stars.
So, you mentioned Ronan the Accuser. Ronan, in the sense of Hawkeye's character now,
Yes.
is actually in Japan. They had like the concept of like the samurai and the Ronin.
Right.
Yep.
Ronin are basically samurais who have no masters.
Exactly.
So, Clint now is a samurai with no master, basically.
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
he's okay. All right, I'm just
Trying to square it
I'm
away.
organizing my thoughts. I'm trying to
He's-
keep sense of what's what. So
He's took out drug cartel in Mexico. He's after what
He was,
Yakuza,
he was taking out the Yakuza.
Yakuza in Japan.
And he
that's-
just, yep.
The
So,
Yakuza?
yeah. So,
Cool.
Natasha is able to convince him to essentially return, although he is at the point where he believes that there's nothing left for him in
Yep.
civilized society, that there's no point in trying because they can't defeat Thanos. There's no way to fix it. But she convinces him that they can do it, that they have a chance.
Yeah.
And so he returns, and he's actually one who tests the time suit.
That's right.
That will allow them to jump in, back in the time. And he gets a moment where he almost gets to see his daughter again,
Yes.
but he gets pulled back,
Pulled back.
just before he's able to see her.
That's right.
But as he returns with a baseball glove that he had grabbed,
Which proves that they can bring something from the past into their reality,
Yep.
into their future, or into their present, I should say.
which allows him to come up with this idea
Yep.
to go back to select points in history,
Mm-hmm.
in their history, where they can find the Infinity Stones and bring them back to the present in
That's
order
right.
to use those Infinity Stones to fix what Thanos has done.
And they have precious little Pym particles that operate
Yes.
this.
So they have
time
just
machine,
enough
so-
Pym particles for each of them
Yep.
to make one round trip.
Yep.
One trip there, one trip back.
That's right.
Which plays very much into how the, as Scott Lang coined it, time heist proceeds from there. We're not going to get into too many details of exactly how they managed to get
No.
the time, the Infinity Stones,
No.
but we do get an interesting breakdown on exactly how time travel works within the MCU.
Yep.
We get to visit the Sorcerer Supreme
Yep.
one last time, where she essentially describes how when an Infinity Stone is removed from a timeline, it creates a branching timeline where the lack of that stone existing makes the universe more susceptible to dark
Yes.
forces.
Yes.
And so,
Yep.
for that reason, they must return each Infinity Stone back at the exact point. Well, actually, it was actually Bruce that came up with it.
Yep.
He was the one who basically said, well, we can fix this by returning each of the stones
Yes.
to the exact point in which they were taken. And there's a bit more to it,
Yeah.
but we're not going to get into
We
too
won't-
much details. Most
Right.
of you have already seen it. So,
But I think what this provided the opportunity, when they're figuring all this out, was really where the producers of the film, the writers, were really able to just basically hit you with a bunch of like continuity things,
right.
which were just incredible because it almost was like, were they really thinking? Did this kind of develop afterward and they just figured out how to like.
It's definitely
how
something
to,
that I thought about a lot.
Or did they have this plan all along, where they kind of storyboarded out so many years worth of films, and this is how they were going to tie this back? But basically, you get all these like little like Easter eggs and nuggets from like all these different films that we've seen over time.
We had
and
Avengers,
and how it all just completely worked into the scenario that they needed to enact.
Yep.
And like where the stones were at certain times, and even when the characters go back in time, they're seeing themselves from those other films, and
like in those moments.
In those moments.
Like the first Avengers.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see the first a different point of view of the first Avengers movie about of them getting together.
That's right, a different camera angle or something like that from the shot that you saw in the film.
Right, exactly.
And some of it, I was left to wonder, like, are they just using straight footage from that movie, or did they go back and shoot extra stuff? Like, there's stuff with Rumlow.
Yeah.
Maybe
Which,
both. Possibly both.
Which some of it was old, but I think some of it was new. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you which parts were new and which parts were totally old, right? You've got Natalie Portman, her character Jane Foster, comes back into this, with
for a couple of seconds.
For a couple seconds,
Yeah,
and I'm pretty
that's
sure
enough.
that was strictly old footage. I'm pretty sure it was. I don't think
Maybe.
she came back into the movie, to film her parts for this movie. But there were lots of things where I would go, did that actor actually come back or not? I don't know. I just thought that was really cool how they did that, how they blended, these separate events together, and you were left to wonder, like, where does the Avengers Endgame begin here, and where do the old movies?
It's very interesting.
So just a brilliant.
Sure, we're gonna learn all about it.
Brilliant
A lot
idea.
of behind the scenes stuff that we can.
Are
Lots-
we not going to talk about Loki, our Iron Man, and Steve Rogers, all that scene?
There's some really good scenes, but some of the stuff I really want to let Phil see for himself.
Yeah.
It's worth
So for
it.
the other two people,
Yeah.
the other
and
two
the other
people
two.
that they're
Oh,
watching
yeah.
that haven't seen it yet,
I'm sorry, I'm drawing
Yeah.
a blank. I'm trying to count like all the Infinity Stones. I've got mind, soul, reality, time, power. Is there what's
Vision.
vision?
Yep.
So when you say like they're going back in time and they're like getting the stones,
You're collecting all the stones. Yeah.
is it one person or is it like the whole team
The
going?
whole team went back to different points. They broke
Okay,
into three
okay.
different teams, went to 3 different times
Yep.
because they got lucky and realized that at a certain
Yep.
point in time, 3 of the stones were in New York,
Right.
Okay,
which was
so
the Vision, the
I was just trying to, like, picture, like-
the reality, the Space Stone, the Vision Stone, and the Time Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Were all in New York in
Okay.
2012.
okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that right.
Yep.
Yep.
Because
And-
like in my head it was like one person in the
jumping
original
to
team was
different-
just jumping into different times. Like maybe like Black Widow jumps into this time and gets this stone, and like Dr. Hulk goes and gets this stone. And I was like,
Yeah.
is it a team thing or is it a solo mission?
It's totally a team thing.
Yep.
Okay,
But things don't go as expected.
Yeah.
Like so what? They're superheroes. Doesn't mean they're going to be successful every time they embark on a mission.
That's what makes them human.
And you have they experience success to varying levels. But actually, Team A there with Cap and Tony actually completely and utterly fail
Yep.
in their mission. And
Well, not
which-
entirely. Cap was able to get the Vision Stone like he was supposed to. Scott
That's true.
and Tony failed to get
Scott and
the,
Tony
the
failed
Space Stone.
failed to get the Space Stone.
Space
Um,
Stone, that's what it was.
And so that causes them to have to call an audible and actually go
Tony-
back further in time, which creates an opportunity for us to get some other
Yes.
incredible moments.
Oh my gosh!
Um,
Seriously,
You know,
both Tony and Cap have the opportunity to see people from their past that they lost a long time ago,
yes,
and were able to they had moments they were able to
That's right.
reconcile with emotions from their past. And I don't want to get too into it.
yep. And it
For those
created
who haven't seen it.
some
I
more
will
weighty
take my
emotional
thoughts and just
moments,
tuck them back away.
wonderful interactions, wonderful dialogue, just top-notch writing here. And, I know there's been some complaints. I've talked to other people who have said, like, it's, I don't know, this doesn't make sense to me, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense.
That's because they don't.
Because honestly,
they're smart.
well, I think it's the rules of time travel. You can really just kind of make it what you want to be. So,
I think they did a good job.
Oh, I think they did a good job.
Putting
Don't get
it
me
together.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. They did a good job with it, but it's not like there's a real science to time travel. It's fantasy
Well, that we know of.
that we know of.
I'm looking at you, Area 51.
So,
Area
but
51's looking right back, dude.
but there have been some things where it's kind of like, I can see the argument against how that would work or whatever, but
Right.
But at the end of the day, you've got some brilliant writing here, and the story does not suffer for it. Like, any of the questions you might have about how this should work or that should work does not affect the story whatsoever. And then there's another incredible moment from another team with Black Widow and Hawkeye, which a lot of people could actually see coming, because if you saw Avengers: Infinity War, these two are
You saw
going
Infinity
to.
War?
Yeah, I saw Infinity War.
They go after the Soul Stone.
They go after the Soul Stone,
That's what I was kind of wondering. Who's going to go after the Soul Stone? Like,
It's
clearly
Black
someone's
Widow
not coming back.
and Hawkeye, and one of them does not come back. I'm not going to say
And
who.
yep,
I'm not going to say who doesn't come back from between them, but what I will say is that one random scene where, like later in the final clash, Clint is running away from those creatures in the tunnel, that was weird.
you're such a jerk. Anyway, anyway,
It was going to come up anyways.
he's seething. Don't worry, you'll still get a Black Widow film.
Yeah, we're getting some Widow.
So, yeah.
I'm okay.
At any rate, that was another just emotional dynamo of a scene.
Yeah.
And
Both of them fighting for the other's life.
yeah, and
Maybe a bit of a harken back to Avengers, the first Avengers movie where Clint and Natasha have to fight each other, and Natasha bashes Clint over the head with an iron bar. A bit of a reversal role maybe this time. I don't
it was
know.
like the opposite of Mr.
Yeah.
and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, very much so. No, they were very clearly trying to stop each other but not hurt
Yeah.
each other. But there's that moment
Yeah.
when she's just looking up at him and just like begging him to let go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one. And the whole movie's full of these moments. And you still get, the movie wasn't as funny as some of the other
It certainly had its
Avengers
moments.
movies.
For
It had plenty of the one-liners.
Noob Slayer 69.
Tyler, how did they get your Twitter name?
Most of the funny moments.
Don't bring that up.
Noob Slayer 69.
Noob Master.
Noob Master, sorry, Noob Master.
Noob Master.
Noob Master 69.
Noob Slayer.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that brilliant
sorry, Noob
moment
Slayer.
there with
Defamation.
they go to collect Thor in the new Asgard, and he's hanging out with his gladiator buddies,
Yeah.
and
Korg and Meek.
and Thor's
best
clearly let
characters
himself
in
go,
Avengers.
but because their activities basically are drinking beer and playing Fortnite.
But it really deals with another
I know.
perspective.
Which
I
probably
know.
mirrors a lot of people's realities.
No, I get it. I totally get it. I
Had to
can
get that
I can
Fortnite
pinpoint-
partnership.
I can pinpoint when me letting myself go exactly an event that corresponded with that led me feeling kind of the same way that I think Thor feels. For different reasons, very different reasons, but there's, depression really hit people in different ways.
Yep,
And he's a broken hero.
he is. He's
And-
totally broken.
And it allows for this really strong moment where you really get to see the bond between Thor and Hulk for the second time. Whereas Thor really did a lot to help get Banner out of his slump during Ragnarok.
Yep.
Dr. Hulk gets to do the same thing for Thor.
He does.
And
I didn't even realize that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
It was a couple like really touching moments, and just
to
see
moment.
the way that how different Dr. Hulk is from both Banner and the Hulk. The way that moment where Thor grabs his shirt and he's just like, please take your hand off me, and then just pulls his hand off very gently, and then speaks to him peacefully and understanding, and it's just like the Hulk would have just tore his arm off, and like that would have been
Yep.
So you get to really see a completely different side to some of the characters.
Absolutely.
Stuff that you don't see, like you never see Thor like this. This is not the Thor that we've journeyed with.
Nope.
We do get to see that Thor come back.
Yep.
And that's awesome. Just the character development right there within a 3-hour span.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
Is he still large at the end?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's got an ale gut.
I have to say, I think I found it funny the first time you see him without his shirt. I do believe he had abs on top of his beer belly.
a little bit.
You know, that's not as uncommon as you would think. Like professional bodybuilders. What was it? Hafthor Bjornsson. He's the mountain on Game of Thrones. The man's got no like fat on his body, but like when he was like becoming like one of the strongest men on earth, he had like this massive beer gut. Not even really a beer gut. He just had this huge gut with just abs on top of his gut. The man's like 6'8", clocks in
like it just
480 pounds.
It doesn't seem
like,
natural. It's like that
it's
shouldn't
scary.
be like that.
Like, be afraid of people with guts but still have abs. Like, they are powerful.
So back to the story. They
guts
do
are powerful.
manage to get all of the stones, but there are some consequences.
Yeah.
Because what they were not aware of is the entanglement between the tech in Nebula's brain
Yeah.
that links her to her, because her brain works on a network.
Yeah.
She is immediately linked
She's in the cloud.
to past Nebula.
Yes.
And there's there's a couple of moments where the wires get crossed and past Nebula is able to see what has occurred
Yep.
in the future.
That's right.
And Thanos,
So Thanos becomes wise
he
to the plan.
discovers what has happened. He discovers what their plan is, and they manage to capture future Nebula, and he sends past Nebula in her place to essentially create a way for them to bring Thanos and his whole army back to the present.
Yep.
Which just opens up, because you get this beautiful moment where they're there, you know, they get past the loss of Natasha. Yep. They decide that Hulk is going to be the one who does the snap, because this is the brilliant moment, because they determine that the radiation, the energy given off by the stones is mostly gamma.
Yeah.
So Dr. Hulk kind of walks up, he's like, it's mostly gamma anyways. It's got to be me. It's almost like this is what I was made for. Just like this very like
It's very
cavalier,
self-reflective.
Yeah.
like, oh, this has been my destiny all along. Just,
This is my God.
it's
Basically.
almost comical. Like, is he making a joke right now? Like,
Right.
But he puts the glove on, and he snaps his finger, but much to his own personal detriment, because it leaves his arm completely just annihilated.
Yep.
And there's a moment, kind of like a flash, when they're not really sure if it's worked.
Yep.
But in that same moment, just before the snap, past Nebula has succeeded in her mission.
Yes.
And you see Thanos' ship and the whole of his army come through the quantum space and literally explode from the time machine right through the roof.
Right through the roof
as
of Avengers
it begins to
headquarters.
expand, and you know that the ship is up there, and so the snap happens.
And that leads to the big confrontation
Yes.
at the end.
So you get a little bit of a Clint gets a phone call immediately, from his wife. And he is so like surprised, like he believes, of course, that it's worked, but hearing that phone ring, you can see he's hesitant because it's almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
He can't really be sure if he can believe that it's really happening, but he picks up that phone and his wife is on the other side of it, and then you see Scott, who's standing by the window, and he's looking at these birds.
And the birds are chirping, and he's like,
I think it's worked. But then,
that
who is it
reverie
who's looking up through the ceiling at that moment? I can't remember who it was, but you kind of see through like the eyes of one of the characters that something is now descending.
Well, something starts descending, and it's Scott Lang that gets blown back by the blast.
Well, you can see.
So, I don't know.
I've seen it 3 times, so I've paid attention.
Yeah.
Scott immediately goes into ant mode as it's happening, but he notices something coming down.
Yeah.
Thanos has just laid in complete siege upon the Avengers headquarters.
Oh yeah, it's destroyed.
Annihilating it to the extent that all that is left is a crater. Most of the Avengers are actually slipped through crags created in the ground, deep down into the bottom of like the sewer systems beneath the headquarters, and we get a short scene where most of them are trying to then make their way back out. But Thanos descends, and he knows that the Infinity Stones are there. They just need to be found.
Yep.
He sends a few of his agents to attempt to find it, and he sits and he waits for the Infinity Stones to come to him. And this opens up opportunity for our main 3, the 3 that really started it, which is Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, to have a 3-on-1 with Thanos, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And I want to tell you something so badly, because there's a moment that has actually turned me into a Captain America fan. There's a beautiful
This is
moment.
transformative.
It really is.
Excuse me?
It seriously is.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, in our previous video, I pointed out a specific comic that I was very interested in. If you notice that comic, Cap is standing there and there's something in his hand, and I'm like, oh, I need this. I need this.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say what it is, but there's
ahead,
just I don't want to ruin it for Phil. I cannot ruin it for him.
Let's not.
I will
Let's
not ruin
not.
it for him.
All right.
Because that moment is just like,
Moment.
oh God! It is brilliant. It is so brilliant. So I don't want to spoil that for him. Not even in the slightest.
Okay.
But there is some really great action that occurs.
Great, yeah. The action sequences are great. It's the time for everyone to come back together because the snap has been undone at this point. You have the opportunity now for the entire cast of heroes to have this second chance of defeating Thanos.
So
And
they ultimately fail in taking on Thanos by themselves. The 3 of them get their collective butts whooped to an extent. Now he's there. He's armored up. He's got this double-bladed, like it's like if Cloud took 2 of his swords and like glued them together at the hilt. Like just these
Great weapon.
massive weapons destroys Cap's shield.
And one of the complaints I think that some people had was, why is it that Thanos seemed to almost be even more unbeatable without the Infinity Glove? Which I think is a valid...
It kind of is, but you have to remember that at that point he had already collected several of the stones in Infinity War, and now was relying on the power of the stones and not his own abilities as a warrior.
Perhaps.
Which is why he doffs his armor. It's why he puts his blades away, because now he doesn't need those. Those are...
Which is a good argument to
Those
counter
are
that.
inconsequential to the power of the stones that he has already garnered.
Yep. But
So in the first time around, he wasn't trying.
He didn't need to.
he
had the
was
stones.
more arrogant, perhaps, in
Yeah.
his approach to battle.
Okay.
And he definitely gets a good
So-
walloping while he's fighting, but ultimately gets the upper hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you get that moment where Cap is like, after Cap had gone ham on him for a good couple of minutes, only to have his butt handed back to him. You see him standing there bleeding, face covered in dirt, and you hear over his comm, "Hey Cap, it's Sam. Like, Cap,
On
are you
your
there?
left.
And then he says, on your left, and you see this portal start to open up. And out walks T'Challa, his sister, and his general. And then it just expands open, and you see the full armies of Wakanda behind them.
Several portals.
And then
just
more
opening.
portals start popping
Yep.
open. Falcon comes flying through.
Guardians
the
of the
Guardians
Galaxy
come walking
come
through.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
It's
all
fantastic.
these characters start pouring through, and it's because now that they have been returned, what's his name? Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange,
yeah.
has now delegated amongst the other sorcerers that they now need to open up these portals to bring the collective heroes of the galaxy to the battlefield. That he knows, because he's seen all of these potential futures, he knows exactly what must happen and exactly who must take part. So he is able to then instruct to all the other sorcerers what must be done, and they are able to bring through the collective MCU to fight Thanos and his armies, which then just erupts into the most glorious battle I have seen on the big screen.
Yep. And it's, obviously that short a couple of people that we had conjectured
Yep, of course.
from the last film that we
Vision
said
is
are
no longer
permanently
there.
gone.
Vision is obviously not there. Black Widow is not there.
Yep.
Gamora does
Heimdall
make an
is not
appearance,
there.
but she is not the same Gamora.
Right.
Is it young Gamora?
It is technically.
Yes, it's the Gamora from...
Which just makes for a great scene with Quill.
Oh, yeah. Awesome scene with Quill.
But there's this moment where the armies are standing behind them. You've got
missed the first
T'Challa doing their Wakandan war chant.
Yep.
Everybody is now standing behind them, and Captain America calls out Avengers, and then he kind of in his deep under breath kind of tone, he says, "Assemble," and they just my
They
gosh.
bum rush it. They bum rush Thanos.
The lines
yeah.
break, and
Yeah.
they just and the battle.
Scarlet Witch really was a shining star in that battle. She was
It's Scarlet Witch
she
by and far is still the most powerful hero in the entire MCU, and she almost by herself takes Thanos out.
Thanos
If it
out,
wasn't for Thanos being a little cheeky and calls a bombardment upon the entire battlefield, even against
killing his own
even
troops,
against
too.
he calls out to his commander to bombard the planet, and he's like, "Oh, we'll hit our own force," and he says it's inconsequential, doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's only because of that.
Because he's about to lose his
Oh
life.
yeah,
to
he's
Scarlet
literally
Witch. He's
Scarlet
gonna be
Witch has
taken
now
out.
literally she
Yeah.
just starts blasting. She has this fantastic moment where she's
He's
just
suspended in the
she
air.
lands there in front of him and she's like, "You have taken everything from me." And he's like, "I don't even know who you are." And she's like, "You will." And then she just starts destroying him, lifts him up in the air, and just you watch as his armor starts to
just
peel away.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for calling that bombardment,
Yeah.
that she would have succeeded in pretty much
Yeah.
ripping him to pieces, and they would have won right
Rad.
there. However, the bombardment is then completely destroyed. His ship is completely destroyed by
The arrival
of Captain Marvel. She has been on a hiatus pretty much for the entire movie, as she is helping other planets that are going through the same thing that Earth are, that don't have the heroes Earth does.
Yeah.
But they never explain how she comes to understand that this is now happening. It could have just been
Maybe
that
Nick Fury called her again.
that she saw that everyone had returned, so she was returning to Earth in order to see what had happened, see that they succeeded, congratulate them, or what have you. But she does return to Earth, and just in the nick of time, you watch her fly right through Thanos'
the ship.
Once down, once back up, where
Yeah.
she does the hero floating
Angel of the Cross pose.
Yes.
The Superman pose.
and but now they have another mission because they found the Infinity Gauntlet, the new Infinity Gauntlet that was created, and they need to keep it out of Thanos' hands.
Yes.
They need to get it back to the time van, if
Yes.
you will. And despite their best efforts, they're not able to do this. Well, Cap calls Carol down and says, we need some assistance. And she lands next to Peter Parker, who has the gauntlet. He's got it all wrapped up. He's like, hi, I'm Peter Parker. And she's like, hey, Peter Parker, you got something for me? It's just like this kind of corny moment. And he's like, well, yeah, but I don't know how you're going to get through that. And points, and there's like all of Thanos' army between her and the van. But it's like, she just flew through a ship.
A massive starship.
I don't think this is a problem.
Not going to be an issue.
But, of course, it was specifically put there to allow for the big, the A-Force moment, if you will, where all the female Avengers show up. You have, she stands there with the gauntlet in hand, and Peter says, I'm not sure how you're going to get through that. And then it was it Scarlet Witch who landed next to her and said, she's got help. And then as they start moving towards the target, all of the women of the MCU
women of Marvel basically
start joining in. And what has been kind of said as like a very forceful feminist moment, disregarding that,
it's a cool shot.
Fantastic. Watching these heroes just start obliterating their way. You get like including Pepper Potts in the rescue armor. And it's fantastic. You see Valkyrie sliding down the side of one of those floating behemoths and just destroying it as she flies by. Absolutely fantastic. And it's but
of course
it does ultimately fail.
It ultimately fails because they decide to blow up the...
Yeah, Thanos sees what they're attempting to do, and just before Captain Marvel is able to get to the van, he throws his sword into the running quantum machine, and it blows up. And now it seems that all is for naught. He walks over, picks up the glove, and attempts to take it, and in what is probably, at this point, my favorite Captain Marvel moment in the entire MCU, which is only about
one thing,
about an hour and 45 minutes in total. She goes like hand to hand with Thanos, and there's a couple really good moments in there where like that was the first moment I really felt like, all right, I'm watching Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. And it was beautiful watching her go. And ultimately, there's one moment where like she's trying to pull the glove off him, and he just like punches her, and like it's
no effect.
Literally no effect at all. And my favorite part is that she didn't have that kind of like snide smirk.
No, she didn't.
On her face, it was almost like she it didn't even connect with her. That he had even attempted to punch her. She was just so focused on trying to get the glove from him, and he ends up taking the Power Stone out and just punching her and sending her flying. So even she is no match for Thanos at this point. But that's when Tony steps in.
Because he gets a signal from
Doctor Strange.
This one scenario.
And
he
Tony
kind of looks at Tony.
Tony knows that it's got to be him. He manages to start to wrestle the glove out of Thanos' hand before he can snap, and Thanos ends up knocking him away, and he has this brilliant moment where like he holds up his hand and he says, I am inevitable, and he clink, and nothing. So he's like, he turns over the glove and there's no Infinity Stones.
He took all the stones
So
out
he looks back to Tony, and Tony stands up and he holds up his hand as all the Infinity Stones like lock into place.
They lock into place around
into
the armor. Yeah, it was.
And all of a sudden, like there's a surge of power just flows through him, and he looks back and he says, "I am Iron Man," and the screen just goes to white, and it's just like,
yeah.
Oh my God! It is so beautiful, and then you slowly watch as the entirety of Thanos' forces just turn to dust, leaving just him sitting there, knowing that he is defeated.
He doesn't even say anything.
And then his body
he's just accepted, like, this is my destiny now, and I'm gone. And he fades into existence.
Now, I don't know if I want to finish with what happens from that point on. because I feel like it's a moment that must be experienced.
That's fair. That's fair. We do get.
We get a couple
I
of
will
false
say
endings.
though that we do false endings. Yeah, I didn't really.
In the same vein of Return of the King. Where they have, like,
multiple endings where
there's-
it's
yeah,
not
you get
necessarily fake outs. It's the this is the end of this story. This is the end of that story. This is the end of this.
Yes.
This is the end of the entire series now.
Yes, and they really do bring a sense of finality to at least the old guard.
Yeah.
Okay.
To a lot of
Yeah,
their
this
stories.
is- this is truly-
maybe with the exception of Thor, because it looks like he has a new route now. to
Yeah.
go.
Yep. So
So
Thor, he even makes a throw to as Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's right,
So
which
there's-
was kind of
so
a
that's
cool
in there.
thing.
That's in
Nice
there.
little
So
name drop for
Good
the
little-
comic
good little-
fans.
We
Good
can. I
little
think
pun.
we can expect to see him in
Yeah.
the third installment of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Which
Yeah, it's not a pun. It's an actual.
I know it's not a
series.
pun. Like
No,
I've
I'm saying
read
it's a
comics.
pun.
I know what is Guardians of the Galaxy.
And it
That's the
made
point I
for-
was making.
It was just a brilliant little exchange
yeah,
there between
yeah.
Thor and Quill again at the.
When he's like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
And he's just like, just looking at him. Oh my gosh, it's so great. Oh, I love that moment. That is like one of my favorite moments in the entire.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because, I mean, after Thor Ragnarok, well, actually, during Thor Ragnarok, Hemsworth was really given full reign of just creating Thor's
Yeah.
character, and he just everything from Thor Ragnarok on is all Chris.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant.
That's because the
It really
original
is.
Thor was too stoic for his own good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
no, he
Now he's
exudes
just a- now he's just
personality.
a big bag of fun.
Yep, he really is, and so that's a very exciting thing because I didn't know that Guardians 3 was going to
Yeah.
probably feature.
I don't think
Thor in that,
any of
so-
us thought that was going to be happening.
No, so that was a nice.
And I
twist at the
wouldn't
end.
mind if, you know how they do like the Guardians of the Galaxy and then they like kind of marker in the volume part of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
It'd
yeah.
be really nice if they did Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and then they just kind of like marker in the as at the beginning of
Yeah.
Guardians.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. And then you got the finality of some of the other character storylines, and then you got. Did you get a little hint of? Oh, the one thing I wanted to mention, there was a little Easter egg in there. There was a character that pops up in a
Yes.
scene that I won't say what the scene was, but
So
you
there
know,
was
like-
a character in the scene,
and you're like,
and I had an idea that was later confirmed.
yep,
When I first saw it, I was there with a couple of friends. I was very lucky. A friend that I've made through my friend Tyler ended up having a free ticket, so that's how I was able to see it for the first time. And I ended up sitting next to that new friend of mine, and I was like, he's like, who's that guy?
yeah.
And I'm like, I
And he's
think I
supposed
know
to
who
be
it is.
somebody because the scene
And I
is like
mentioned- and I
a
mentioned
bunch
it.
of somebodies.
Yeah, and later was able to confirm it.
Yep.
But it's actually the young boy that Tony interacts with in the third.
I was going to ask if
Yeah.
there was going to be something to tie back to
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So that kid is in one of the scenes.
Yeah,
and
and
it's,
that's
it's really
nice.
nice to see him back there.
And the whole movie is just chock full of so much of that stuff.
They
where
pay
they really
such great homage to all the stories that came before
Yep.
it that made it what it is.
Exactly.
It's a great and the,
Yep.
the whole thing is about closing out these stories of the old guard.
Yes,
The
exactly.
ones that made the MCU what it truly is,
Yep.
while still paving the road for a new MCU.
Yes, exactly. The movie is it's brilliant in every way. I mean, if you are a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's a must see. You have to see how it all ends.
And I love at the very end, after all the credits
Yeah.
have rolled, there are no after credit scenes.
no after credit scenes. Yep.
Which is something that is very much a part of the MCU since the very beginning.
Yep.
We get at the very end of the credits, the banner, the Marvel logo comes up, and all you hear is the sound of a hammer hitting metal on an anvil in the background. That is it. That is all you get. A couple of ting, ting, ting. And what that is it's actual audio ripped straight from the very first Iron Man movie when he's working on the first Iron Man suit in that cave in the Middle East.
That's cool. Wow, that's
and
cool.
It's the most perfect ending.
I did not stay to the end credits because of that.
Ends exactly the way it began.
The way it
with
began.
Tony Stark
Perfect.
hammering away at the
And
first
Mark
Iron
I.
Man. Yeah.
That's perfect. And so let's very briefly, because I think we filled pretty much the whole show.
Yeah,
here.
no, that's
Let's very
not
briefly
everything.
talk about what's next for the Marvel Universe, cinematic universe.
So we've got one more movie in the third phase. The actual movie that's going to be ending it is Far From Home.
Yep.
And then we know of right now that we're definitely going to get another Doctor Strange. We're definitely getting a third Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
And we're getting another
Black
Panther.
Yep.
Which I'm excited for all three of those.
But we don't know of a release schedule yet.
No, not yet.
But
But we do know the next movie is
Yeah.
definitely Far From Home. It's coming out.
I think is it June?
Yeah.
June 5th.
June 5th, okay.
And
it does take place after
It is after the
events of Endgame,
Yep.
where it seems presumably that Peter Parker is a little bit tapped out on the hero bit.
Yeah.
Like he's experienced loss. He just wants to basically reconnect with his friends.
Yeah.
He
And-
basically just goes on vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
basically.
That's just it.
And
Yep, and he just wants to be a normal kid. For
We
once.
know from the trailers that we've seen
Mm-hmm.
that he's going to interact with the first cinematic reveal of Mysterio, a classic Spider-Man villain,
Yes.
who is a master of illusion and deception.
Yep.
And what we also know from the most recent trailer is that this is the point where where it's revealed that the MCU is a part of a much bigger multiverse.
Yes.
And I have some theories
Mm-hmm.
on it. I think Mysterio is going to play a very big part in revealing what's going to happen moving forward. He's going to basically lay the foundation for what we can expect as far as the expansion of the MCU into the multiverse. What we do see in Endgame, especially when we're talking with the Sorcerer Supreme, she reveals that anytime a Infinity Stone is removed from reality, it creates a branching reality, as I mentioned before,
Yep.
that is susceptible to dark forces.
Yep.
Well, because the Infinity Stones at the end of Endgame are in fact returned to the points where they were taken from time, so that no branch realities could break off from those, what that does leave us with is our MCU timeline completely without Infinity Stones.
Yep.
There are none.
Yep.
So now we're open up to these forces that the Sorcerer Supreme has warned against. And I think that's going to come in the form of smaller characters like Mysterio, as well as larger characters such as the Celestials, now trying to take power in a defenseless universe.
Yep. That's very interesting. Here's the other thing that we haven't talked about, and that is the incorporation of the X-Men, the mutants,
Yes.
into Marvel Cinematic Universe. And there is Fox had filmed New Mutants.
Yep.
That had been taken off their release schedule. It has now since been added back into the release schedule, but delayed until 2020. So, theory here, perhaps some reshoots that do something to tie them into, because this movie was filmed
Possibly.
probably with the absence of any kind of reference to any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe events. I wonder if there are some reshoots happening where they're trying to actually use that movie as a bridge to get mutants into Marvel Cinematic
Possibly.
Universe. Because that's going to be technically a Disney film now. So,
Yeah.
and it's probably
Yeah.
going to be the first X film to, or the first hint of any mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, potentially.
I'm definitely very interested in
So-
seeing what's going to happen with the MCU moving forward.
Yep.
How we're going to get all of these other, major Marvel titles, such as the X-Men, such as the
Fantastic
Fantastic Four, get them involved.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, I'm pretty excited to see what the MCU, not Fox, what the MCU is going to do with Galactus.
Yeah.
I think we've got some really interesting stories moving forward.
Well, if they're going Celestials, they're setting it all up for that interaction and those properties to really at least the Fantastic Four property to really take center stage in something like that. So it's exciting time. It's kind of like we really don't know what the script is now. Like we knew all along for like the last couple of years what we were leading to, and now we really don't know where it's going to go.
Since I think the second Iron Man, or when did we first see Thanos?
End of Avengers.
Was it the end of the Avengers?
It was the credit scene of Avengers.
Credit scene of the first Avengers movie. Yeah. So so 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
now we're kind of wading into uncharted territory with the MCU. Like we don't know.
We are.
I'm kind of interested to see the MCU version of Doctor Doom.
Yeah. I mean, I think that.
No.
What?
No?
Guardians of the Galaxy. Didn't we see him in Guardians of the Galaxy? Was that before or after Avengers?
That was after Avengers.
I don't know.
Avengers came out in 2012.
Gander.
If I'm not mistaken, Guardians came out in late 2013 or 2014. It was at least. It was definitely after.
You're right. Sorry, I'm mixing up scenes from different movies.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But bottom line is that it's kind of it's an open field now. So who knows what's going to happen? And the roster of characters now is just exponentially increased here. So the directions of the storylines
liking it. I'm
really
liking
is.
It. Back in the day, we had a lot of single hero stories with like a lot of sub characters. Now we're getting a lot of crossovers.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, think about it. Civil War, which was at the time of its release the biggest collection of Marvel heroes, was a Captain America movie. It wasn't Avengers Civil War. It was Captain America.
It just felt like an Avengers film to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But even now, Thor Ragnarok, you had three different, what are now three different main characters involved. Actually, and Loki too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're starting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Kind of feels like the comics.
It does. It does feel like the comics.
Imagine that.
It's crazy. Comic book movies just like the comics.
The way it ought to be. The way it ought to be.
I just have one question about Endgame. No Adam Warlock?
No Adam Warlock.
Nope.
It makes no sense to me. It's almost like they could have taken another character that was just kind of hastily added and replaced that character with Adam Warlock, who should have been there to begin with.
Someone that they actually hinted that they
were
more
making. Politically correct choice?
Maybe not a more politically correct choice, but definitely a more like true to the comics choice at the very least. Because what is Adam's purpose? Oh man, oh gosh. What if the birth of Adam Warlock ushers in new Infinity Stones?
Well, who knows what could happen? I mean, I don't think they're going to let that story lie. I think that
because even in the MCU, they
it would be the first
established Adam Warlock, like they're making him in the pod with those. I can't remember the name of the alien race, the Golden people from
the Sovereign.
The Sovereign, yes, thank you.
I still maintain that the actress who played Aisha of the Sovereign, like their grand leader, Elizabeth Debicki, was way better potential for Captain Marvel than Brie Larson. But I'm just putting that
Tyler,
out
put
there.
your biases at the door.
No, it's not a bias. She's a fantastic actress that has the presence for the character that is Carol Danvers that I don't think Brie brings to the table. But that's just me.
What say you?
He agrees, kind of.
He's kind of going like the meh, 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 meh. That's the noise.
Anyway,
that's
what
the
do
noise
you all
bobbleheads
think?
make.
That's more important. So definitely give us some comments.
Tell me
share the video. Subscribe.
Yeah,
I forgot to
one.
say subscribe.
Hit the bell, the notification.
Bell. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not gonna get any notifications
That's
for more content, which is like once a month.
Exactly.
At the
moment, but could change in the future.
We're making plans.
Yeah,
we're making plans.
Tell us what you want us to do, and we'll.
And what to discuss for the next comic and pop culture video shoots. We are open to ideas. So.
I mean, I know what I want to talk about next month, but.
We do. So maybe
I know what I want to talk about, but maybe you guys have some better suggestions for us.
Shrek the Fifth? Is that what we're going to talk about?
No.
So, at any rate, there was
happen.
something mentioned in the last video,
Yeah.
and I'm going to mention it again here. We have, it is May, and we just recently celebrated May the 4th.
Yep.
And we have a couple of cool action figures here. And the plan is to raffle these off to someone who is willing to subscribe to our channel, then like, comment, and share our videos. So if you do that, if you do all those things, you'll be entered into a raffle, and hopefully we'll get in touch with you, and maybe Kylo Ren or Rosie will be yours. Rose. I don't know what these guys are doing.
We're just having fun, man.
They're playing with the action figures.
Sorry.
In the
We're
package.
having a
You'll be
lot
able
of
to take
fun
them out
with
if you
these.
wish.
That's how collecting nerds play with their.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Yeah,
we don't want to
can't-
tarnish them, so we have to
No.
play with the. We have to play with
You
the
know what?
packaging.
To be fair, if we were real collectors, we'd be like, oh, the edges. Not
That's true.
that I'm
So-
making fun of collectors. I'm sorry, guys. Please come.
He's
back.
making fun of collectors. I'm not.
So we thank you again for watching. On behalf of the team, we'll see you next time. Take care.